Hey there, everybody. We are here at the Bespoke show in Dresden. In this video, we're going to take a look at all the really interesting and unique bikes at the show. Let's go check it out.
It's my take on the Pedersen bicycle. So I basically took an idea from 1882 and molded it into a modern bike geometry. It's actually pretty similar to a modern road bike geometry.
Really? Okay.
It was my dream for a long time. I'm a fan of the Pedersen bicycle, but I wanted to not to build a copy, but rather to build a tribute.
Right.
So that's what I did.
How's it ride? Like, what does the truss fork feel like when you ride it?
It has a lot of flex.
Okay.
It has a lot of flex. I actually stiffened it a bit. I put an extra tube in there.
Okay.
You have a feeling on this bike that you're in zero gravity, because you're basically your rear end is suspended on springs, and all together the frame, the flex, and the wooden wheels.
Okay.
It gives you the feeling of like a 15-20 millimeter suspension.
Do you have to tension this over time, or how does the saddle work?
Yeah, it's pre-tensioned. So I built some tensioners in these truss rods. I think when you sit here, it takes over the tension from this tube, so this doesn't fold. So this way it transfers the tension to the dropouts.
Okay. And you can tighten it like a giant spoke?
That's basically a big spoke.
So tell me about the steering. You don't have a traditional head tube. What's going on there?
These are actually industrial ball joints. Ball joints. That's the right term. Each one of them can hold 650 kilos.
Oh wow!
They're plenty strong.
Right.
And I just had this idea. Because the original Pedersen design also didn't have a head tube.
Really?
So I wanted to continue that. Later on, they redesigned a little bit, and it had a very short head tube.
It's like a hybrid. I built randonneur bicycles, and I want to get in touch with bike packing and gravel stuff. Maybe I'm a little bit late with it.
Yeah.
But I want to get in touch with it and want to have it in my way. So I imagine of a mixture of a modern gravel bike, but with an old French randonneuring impact.
Right. For this one with the more bike packing, is it still low trail or did you have to change?
It is still low trail because I want to try it.
Oh, okay, good.
It's in 73 head angle and a 72 millimeter rake on the fork.
Yeah.
I don't know the trail I don't remember. So, and I want to try it in this way because if you don't try it, you cannot say if it works or not.
Right.
And I also try the very flexi frame because on the randonneur bicycles it works very, very well if you do the right things.
Right.
You can do the wrong thing and then it's uncool.
Yeah.
And I want to try it for bikes like that. So very thin tube walls.
Yeah.
And also the fork is very flexy.
Yeah.
I used a special Reynolds fork blades.
Yeah.
Very thin wall, and you see if you're doing like that on a bicycle, everything is like, oh,
Yeah.
is it cool? Yeah, and also the stem is very thin.
Yeah.
So there's also a flex, and I want to try it and find out if it works or not, and after it maybe do it better, and if it don't work,
Right.
I tried.
Yeah.
Yeah. I built a bike around the two headlights.
okay.
They're old headlights from the firma Sohn.
Okay.
You know them from Hub Dynamos.
Yeah.
They built it maybe 25, 30, 20 years ago. That
Yeah.
was the standard.
Yeah.
And I like them very much. It's not a good light, but they look very good. The crankset is an old Campagnolo Gran Sport steel, very thin, very filigran, and heavy weight. And I find a guy in Belgium. It's you find it on Instagram, Rovar Cycles, Rovar, I think. and he makes bespoke chain rings.
Oh, wow.
CNC machined, and he makes a special chain ring just for this crank, for this 60 years old crank,
Cool.
as a one buy.
Oh, nice.
So that is very cool, and that was the inspiration. So I built a bike around it.
This is my dirt bike.
Okay.
Usual dirt bikes are too small for me, so I built that one. It's sort of like spiced up with a little bit of clunker. I think the most interesting thing to people my age or older is the derivative Hammerschmidt, because it actually still works, and it's actuated on the frame like this.
Okay.
Also, the seat post is.
Nice.
So the aim was to get a frame with no controls on the handlebar if I will decide to ride it with coaster brakes. But yeah, so for now it's with disc brakes.
So with the Hammerschmidt, is it just 2 gears or how many gears is it?
It's two.
It's 2.
So it's a overdrive, I think 1.65 or something.
Like when you shift, you have to go all the way to one side and then all the way to the other?
Yeah. So there's steps, but those are like a seven gear frame shifter, and I just used it as it is. So yeah.
This is an interesting build by a builder named Alanukas. He's not here at the moment, but very retro inspired. Lots of nice touches on this one. Of course, 650B Rene Erst tires, old school Shimano rear derailleur. Very Riv-inspired cockpit with these, I believe they're either Simworks or Nitto handlebars, and of course they're rocking the Riv friction shifters in the way that you're supposed to mount them. Other cool touches are the wide range double. You guys know I'm a fan of saving the front derailleur. Ritchie Logic cranks, and what's interesting is it's rocking these Gearhart GTP chain rings, which apparently you can still buy new. It's either a Polish or Czech creator, but they make chain rings for all sorts of retro BCDs, if you will. So if you're looking for a 94 BCD shifting chain ring or a 11074, you can find it over at Gearhart. Super cool build, and definitely one that warms the cockles of the heart.
This bike is a fully custom steel rando bike for a person from France who's really into going very far and wanted to be very comfortable. He's of shorter stature, so a lot of the bikes he was able to find from bigger brands, they were too stiff for him, basically. So we've gone with pretty skinny tubes. It's mostly Columbus Spirit tubing. There's a Sona top tube, which has been sort of squeezed a little bit, mostly for aesthetics. So it's about creating a very light bike. The forks, even though they're steel, are only 900 grams.
Oh, wow.
And he had some specifications, big tires. He wanted to fit these Shields Bateau mud guards, which are quite bulky, but they give excellent coverage. He's been riding it for 500 kilometers so far, and he seems happy. Many things well, and then obviously we have the custom bags from Witzlingers, which the owner really likes being in an aero position for like very long rides. So we needed to come up with a bag that sort of fitted it.
Yeah.
And it goes along with the custom rack, which is optimized for going to Japan, which the owner does once a year, actually, for a month, riding with his friends.
Yeah.
So you want to be able to pack it down and then actually switch the light position to the opposite side, because they drive in the left side. Normally he's in Strasbourg, driving on the right side of the road. So
we're here at the Monopole booth. You guys know I've been reviewing a pretty interesting drop bar version. They've got all sorts of different builds here, as well as one that uses the BSA attachment. So if you wanted to run a regular derailleur setup, this is what it would look like. I talked with one of their engineers, and he said at the moment, no plans to run 2x, and they really suggest going with a pinion if you need wider gears. But cool to see the Monopole built up in different configurations.
It's a titanium bespoke bicycle. So we have always the same parts in our titanium bike, like this part. With the seat post clamp inside, very discreet, and the dropout where you can find the little mountain shape. On this bike we have two our personal stem. And the particularity of this bike is the fork, because it's my first titanium truss fork. I already made this fork, but in steel, in another bike. It's more complicated with titanium. And the idea for this fork, it was to can propose it with a more accessible price, because this kind of fork is very, very long work. So it's a combination with a 3D part printed. Like you have one ear, you have another ear, another ear, and the dropout. And you can the development and the design work was a little bit long, but for other fork I can keep the same part, and after I just have to adjust the length of my tube. Truss fork is a good construction for the disc brakes, because you have two legs on each side, so it's to don't have this kind of effect that you can have when you have just one leg on each side.
What was the inspiration for the paint and the color?
Yeah, for our titanium bike, we always want to keep one part with color, because we don't want to have just a gray titanium bicycle. So for this one, I just want to have a geometric design. I just start from this color because I want to match it with the Ingrid crankset, and I work around this color. So I just want to have a combination of natural color, like sand and green, and just have touch of yellow. And after I paint all the shape, I add some little detail.
I really wanted to bring out my Native American heritage and my craft and my ancestors' crafts. Most of them are metal workers and still make jewelry to this day on the reservation. So starting with the bike, this is a very long, as you can tell, hardtail. We got 475 chainstays in the rear. The reach is 510, stack is 690, 150 millimeter fork. So I did FEA analysis on the frame, on the main triangle when I designed it, and found all of the weak spots. I really wanted to make something without gussets or like any sort of yoke system or anything like that, and keep it very streamlined and pretty thrasher bike. And so did the analysis and then ended up adding half-inch tubing to all the stress areas to just reinforce it, and I was able to use thinner wall tubing throughout the entire bike and actually shave quite a bit of weight off the frame by doing that. Kind of same idea as like a truss fork, more smaller tubes for a stronger, lighter fork type of thing, and I was using that as kind of a concept to play with a hardtail frame. I learned brazing from Yamaguchi at Yamaguchi Frame Building School, and so what I do is I actually braze from the inside out, and so I put very big vent holes in the C-tube and head tube, and then I actually get the torch in there, pull the braze into the joint, and build it up from the inside, and then move to the outside and braze it that way, and creates a super strong frame because you have most of your braze on the inside of the tube, and then on the outside, everybody's favorite thing is using sandpaper and files for hours and hours. It really helps with the cleanup and really gives it a clean aesthetic as well.
We're here at the Fern and Graham Tour Packing booth. This is a pretty popular brand in Europe, but kind of new to me. Super cool to see it in person. I'm loving the rim brakes, also the Gavinel shifters, as well as all the interesting racks using the Fidlock system for a quick release, a release felt painter system. I particularly like the Yo Fernie, which is a play on words of the Yo Eddie bike. Love the retro colors, awesome build.
This is a bird packing bike. So it was designed with the idea of going bird packing. So take your bike out in nature and look at birds.
Nice.
So in the front here, I have attached a cage with a telescope on the one side and a tripod on the other side for the telescope. And then the back, you can have your belt, field guide,
There you go.
and binoculars and snacks and whatever you need for like a good day out. Under the nature vibe, I've decided to go with the cotton for the backs, and they're all plant-based, the dyes. And the paint itself is a linseed oil paint that I'm testing. It's a company in Denmark that makes the paint where I live.
Tell me about the handlebars. Did you bend this yourself, or where are those from?
No, I didn't bend them. They're actually they're two old handlebars that are cut up and welded together. So it's a little weld in here.
Nice.
Yeah, with the support inside the tube so it doesn't break.
So what are the wheels and tire size here?
It's 26 inch by 2.8. Strilsland is also a Danish-based company. Get these, they're WTB, but that he worked together with to get them rolled in the 26-inch. And it's also his fork and chainring.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So this is my personal gravel bike. I built it a couple months ago, like 5-ish months. So I've had a little bit of time to get used to it. One of the really big things is the like hover bar-esque one piece that I made myself.
Yeah.
I really liked what Canyon did with that design, and I thought it looked cool. I wanted to try one, but I wasn't going to go buy that whole bike. And so I had to decide, I was like, what do I want out of that bar? And so what I did is I matched center of bar to top of saddle on my mountain bike so that I could get this riding position. So on the tops, I'm upright and comfortable, and then I still have the drop to be a little bit more aerodynamic. And but it's higher up overall, so I can just hang out on the bars. And then also there's a lot of suspension because it's only tied in here, so you get a lot of flex throughout the entire system, which helps a lot for just longer rides basically.
Is this like clunker inspired or what's going on?
It is, yeah. So I wanted, like, I really like the old Harley Davidson motorcycles, like 1920s, where they still had pedals and were essentially mopeds, and I just really like that aesthetic and thought it was fun. And then also it's handy to be able to pick it up from here, and it makes the bike a little bit more maneuverable. And yeah, I just like the aesthetic of it. Another thing too that I'd want to point out is the yoke to clear the double chain ring in the tire.
Yeah.
I wanted a really tight, short chainstay, but I also wanted double rings and 45C tires. And so this was my best solution around that. It's a boxed yoke, so it's all plate welded together, so it's super stiff, and then I can clear a 3952, a 45C tire, and have a 420 mil chainstay.
Nice.
And the concept is it's a uni size with a kind of low step-through frame. So if you have kids on the back, you can hop over here instead of the rear. And it got a pinion E-shift, 12-speed one, and a belt drive. Here we have this wheel which takes this belt upwards, so that you don't need frame locks. So otherwise you need 3 here, here, and here.
Right. Okay.
And that's kind of like a technical solution, kind of like elevated chain stays, so you don't need that.
Smart.
Yeah. And a friend of mine, Frauke, she sewed the bags, which I really liked. They came out pretty neat.
So what's the baguette and the pizza cutter theme?
Oh yeah, the baguette. Actually, Tine from Graham, our neighbors in Berlin, she brought it over because she said, "Oh, it's so long and you have nothing on the bag. I bring you a baguette tomorrow," so that's that. And the pizza cutter is kind of a long story. If you want me to get into it, I try to make it short.
Yes.
We are riding a pizza gravel group in Berlin, where they always take you to different places. It's like a community group.
Yeah.
And you don't know where you end up, but it's always a pizza place.
Nice.
And a friend of mine, Georg, who introduced me to the group, which I'm very grateful for, he brought me there, and he had a birthday, so I constructed this in CAD software for him, for his bike.
Yeah.
Now I borrowed it for the show. I built the rack as well. It's my first rack, which I built. It was kind of tricky with all the little tubes in between. I also got some nice feedback since I work as a product designer for 4 years in the bike industry already.
Yeah.
And the design I really like, but you have to make sure that you can fabricate it also in an easy way.
Right.
And I got some nice feedback here from some engineers to improve this design, which I take into consideration as well.
Okay.
So it's a bikepacking monster gravel bike with 51 millimeters of travel.
Oh, wow.
And also a linear actuation, because normally when you've got a trapeze fork, it's like a sweeping motion.
Okay.
And I've made all the linkages in Fusion 360 and made all the kinematics, and so you've got 51 millimeters of travel.
Yeah.
And normal damper from a rear shock.
Right.
So, and I've also got all the hardware you can see over there.
Yeah.
It mounts to the front and to the rear. Yeah, and I do like all the mounting stuff. So anything cages or odd lip bags and. Yeah.
What's the tire clearance, and are there any other interesting design details?
You can fit 2.25 inch is it inch? Yeah.
Yeah.
Inch tires, so 29 inch.
Yeah.
Yeah, front and rear. And I've chosen some fast rolling tires because I do a lot of commuting to work with, like gravel.
Yeah.
And that's also the reason why I've built this bike, because I've also got a normal gravel bike with a stiff front. Yeah, and I've got some a little bit pain, and that's also, it dampens really good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, it's a titanium gravel bike for long distance bike packing.
Okay.
It's built around the Cane Creek invert gravel fork. And yeah, the whole thing is titanium with 3D printed dropouts and the seat stay cluster. And it's painted with a water transfer print and some black airbrushing.
Yeah.
With a custom rack and custom bags for bike packing, actually. Yeah.
Cool. So when do you decide to use a 3D printed part or not?
Well, that was last year, probably for the first time, because I was looking for like nice dropouts, and a friend of mine is an engineer, so we decided to try this on a real titanium frame.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a perfect opportunity for small frame builders to get their own parts, and especially the rear end of a bicycle gives you lots of opportunities to use this technique, actually. I mean, you see here, that's actually the part.
Okay.
And you miter it here to the angle you've got, and then the seat stay just plugs in and is welded and sanded down. Okay. And so you can get different angles.
Right. I see.
You have to bend the seat stays and chain stays.
Yeah.
That's the only thing, and then you weld it together. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Did you fabricate the rack as well, or?
Yeah. And also the tabs, the rack tabs, are 3D printed as well.
Okay.
To fit them perfectly on the bike.
Yeah, this came together started with a handlebar, to be honest, because I know the guys from Beast, and it was a prototype, and we were trying to, the limitation with this bar is you have to use a mountain bike kind of braking, but I do a lot of single track because I came more from mountain biking after being more of a track rider when I was young. And I always find gravel bikes a bit unstable in single track.
Yeah.
So the idea was to build a bike you could do everything with. From single track to bike packing, it's got an adjustable wheelbase.
Okay.
But you've also got a lot of stability at the front because you're not got a massive drop. And then we played around with what's the prototype for a Mantis fork, where we built the rake at the top of the fork.
Right.
To be honest with you, theoretically it should work like the normal one. I've ridden that a few times. To be honest with you, when you're building a disc fork these days, you're taking all the spring out of the steel anyway. But it's a lovely bike. It's painted like my Land Rover, so it's like a Land Rover mindset. You can go anywhere with it.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the old Land Rovers, not the new ones. Yeah, so it was a lot of fun, and it's a mix of something I call new tradition. There's old skills, old thinking about a bike. We've even simulated the old lug kind of painting, even though it's Philip raised. Plenty of clearance, totally adaptable. I've built a couple of these now. What's cool is as well, we use the slightly dropped stem again, just to create a little bit of a weird optic. It's usually got slightly wider tyres, usually going out to 50s. With the later ones, I've bent the seat stays out a little bit more. That's my signature finish for, let's say, gravel with the wrap over. I've bent them out slightly so you could be even wider with the tyres, because I love bigger tyres. And I'm even building the road bikes now with. For me, there's no disadvantage. You've got comfort where you need it, and then you can build the rest of the platform from there.
Tell me about the handlebars. Are those hoods sculpted into the bar itself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the guys from Beast are actually based here in Dresden, so it's a product that's made here in Germany. They actually come from the aerospace industry, but there's a lot of clever thinking about it, because
So
you've got
is it carbon or
it's carbon.
Okay.
It's built in stages. But it's super clean. They're very clever. They even put like a center section where they've got a band so that you can't compress the carbon.
Okay.
If you see the inside, and they're perfectly finished.
Right.
So they've got a really strong compression through the whole product.
Yeah.
So you've got basically the hood position. You've got a low drop from the 2 points.
Yeah.
So you can really use the drops.
Yeah.
For me, I love them. They're really great. And when you go downhill, you've got the stability of a mountain bike, which for me I love.
Yeah. So this is a really interesting bike by the German builder Drust, who's kind of like the Willy Wonka of bike building. I believe it's a travel ATB. It's got an S&S coupler here, as well as this joint that looks like it unscrews. Lots of interesting bits and bobbins. Bags by Graham Bike Packing. Really interesting truss fork that also looks like it partially disassembles somewhat. Of course, it's all held together by a pinion drive. This is at the pinion area, showcasing all their bikes. These look like some super ultralight pink bike packing bags. Velo orange crazy bars. Probably one of the altiest alt bikes I've seen at this show.
Yeah, Milara is a compact pocket cargo bike, maybe, so to say. So Milara means mini Lastenrad in German, like the mini cargo bike. Steel frame, modular. Loading module is like interchangeable. They're going to be like narrower one, like wider, longer, shorter, maybe a basket in the future. Like,
will it take a front derailleur or no?
With a clamp, yeah, of course, with a clamp, sure. Yeah. But it's hard to fit a rear derailleur that is not too long.
Oh, okay.
So Shimano Z is a good option, but we're also in contact with Ingrid, which is over there.
Yeah.
And they just offered us yesterday a shorter
There's
derailleur.
going to be a shorter one. Okay.
What caught my eye was like the interesting mounting, how it cuts in. Tell us how you came to this.
I think there's just unused space, and like nobody thought about that, and we tried, figured out that it's actually pretty valuable to have some extra.
How does it handle? Is it pretty nimble or stable? How does it feel?
I'd say sporty. Sporty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just super compact. Like the turning circle is super small, and it's fun to ride. Cool.
That's a bike that I created for the 2018 edition of the Silk Road, and I went to ride it. So all our bikes are a bit in the same spirit. I would choose a race and design a bike for it and go to ride it. And that's a monster cross. We didn't know really what we would find for terrain. I wanted a bike that could take up to 2.4 inches tires with a very comfortable geometry and a corrected fork for a mountain bike suspension fork in the front. Yeah. So I could choose in case it's too harsh. You can ride it with a flat bar or drop bar. Yeah. We developed this flat bar for having like a lot of flex as well. Okay. Yeah. So it's just a titanium bar that gives you the flex basically on a small diameter. So that gives me really a lot of comfort. And I've combined it with our titanium fork, which is actually also taking a lot of the shattering from the road, so giving you more comfort. So wheelbase is not like extra long, but the chainstay at 435 are long enough to give you comfort, but still give you pedaling efficiency. And the particularity maybe that we find again on those bikes is that none of our tubes are round. Okay. We shape either by cold forming or hydroforming the tubes in order to try to maximize the vertical compliance for comfort and also motricity and good performance.
Yeah. Tell me about the titanium fork. You don't see a lot of those. Do you guys fabricate the fork legs and everything?
Yes. So we start. That's been quite a long story on this one. It took us 2 years to develop. We started with a regular construction with like tubings that you would bend and weld to a crown, but with titanium it doesn't work. You have a lot of shattering. It's very soft in the corners. Yeah. So we developed this part which is made of precision casting, aeronautical grade. And we spent also a lot of time in shaping the legs. So we start from a round tube, and then you would have like a shaping into the profile in the dimension here, but also tapering towards the bottom. Yeah. So it's a lot of cutting, rewelding, and everything. But we're happy with the result now. We decline it in a lot of length. That means we can do it for road, for gravel, for gravel corrected, that means 430 millimeter, and for mountain bike. Yeah. And we have a new one coming for 3.0 inches tires, because we're launching a plus bike somehow for that's going to be able to work in the sand. I mean sand, by Baja California.
Yeah.
But also it's going to be able to do Edita Road. So we are going with this bike for Edita Road this winter.
It is a pure all-road, I think we can say.
Yeah.
When I heard I got the SRAM scholarship here, I was very excited. It was also right after MAID, so I was a little drained creatively and physically and emotionally. So I turned to them for a little bit of direction, and they suggested trying to do something drop bar 2x. So I took that and kind of pushed it as far off-road as I possibly could, just to kind of suit the way I'm riding nowadays. So this is what I ended up with the suspension fork, dropper post, maxed out the tire in the rear as much as I could, and threw on a slightly beefier one in the front here.
Which way does a geometry lean? It looks like it's fairly tucked in the rear.
Yeah, it's race oriented. It's a fast bike.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been building a lot of more comfortable, like endurance type frames the last few months.
Yeah.
And for myself, I wanted to do something fast and fun. And yeah, here we are. Yeah, so I did a dropped asymmetric seat stay in the rear here. I wanted to add a bit of stiffness to the drive side. It also happens to look interesting.
Yeah.
Kind of draws you in a little bit and invites you to look at it a bit more and see what's going on. It's also quite challenging to fabricate, deceptively so, but it was a lot of fun, to be honest.
What's the paint?
The vibes I was going for was like an elevated barn find,
Okay.
like maybe a futuristic barn find. I'm very fortunate in that my workshop's at the back of a paint shop, Flux Customs.
Right.
So I work very closely with Chris when I do a wet paint finish. This is all Cerakote, and what he did was layer different colors. We have like the brown copper base and then the main green color on top here. And he kind of worked through the top layer to get back down to the rust layer, to have that come through, and you can kind of see the scratch marks here where like he was physically removing material and paint.
Right.
I think he knocked it out of the park.
It's kind of like a pre-patina.
Yes, exactly.
That's like a custom gravel adventure bike.
Cool.
Lots of custom parts like frame, of course, stem, and this custom rack where you have also multiple mounts for special racks. The idea was to mount the bottle cages as low as possible.
Okay.
To have the possibility for a big top tube.
Other small details, like this is interesting routing through there.
Just came up while I was building the bike, because I wanted to go in here, out there, and the idea was to make the routing at the outer side.
Yeah.
But then while I was holding the seat stay, I just thought, okay, let's try that.
Cool. Yeah. Tell me about the rack. This is pretty interesting.
Yeah, idea was here to make it as light as possible, but also have the possibility to put small things on here so they don't fall through. And then I just thought, let's put this Dyneema string here.
Okay.
It's really strong, so don't have to worry about breaking it.
Yeah.
And it's really light, so the whole rack painted is around 450 grams.
Oh wow! I see there's like window cuts on the stem.
Yeah, that's what I like about frame building, to make some really special, nice little details which you only see if you take your time looking at the bike. So I have these cutouts here, as well as on the stem here.
Yeah.
Then there are little name tag is here for the bike, and
what's that say up there?
that's like the frame number.
Okay.
So that's frame number 10 from me.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, so that's my dad's bike. So my dad wanted rim brakes, campy, also classical seat post, but then knock yourself out. So I, of course, did a lot of 3D printing. We have my usual fork that I print in stainless steel, printed chainstays, lugs, also made in stainless steel. And then lots and lots of sanding.
You printed the lugs or what?
I print the lugs. Yeah, I have some. I have some with me.
Okay.
So the lugs are printed. In the bottom we have more of a classical style lug.
Yeah.
On top is something that looks like Bylon, but it's also a 3D printed piece.
Okay.
And then this bike actually has 4 seat stays.
Wow.
Because I'm also using seat stays for top tubes. It's a structural feature that really boosts the comfort.
Yeah.
It really works well on steel bikes. Yeah, so the fork is my own design, and it started by actually simulating, trying to figure out how do I filter out vibrations. I see a lot of steel bikes with a carbon fork. I think it's a crime, and so I thought about how do I do that well. Well, and unfortunately, the choices you have today is either something that looks like a piece of plumbing or something straight out of 70s. So I had to make my own.
Yeah.
And the whole point of this design is trying to make the hub move at even high frequencies. So sometimes when you ride that bike on something very rough, you see the hub almost like blurring, right? But you don't feel it, and that is fulfilled. The fork can take essentially any tire up to 50 even millimeters, and it's barely thick enough to house a cable inside.
Right.
So if I need to do this based with internal routing, it's also possible.
So how much of the fork is the entire fork printed? Or?
The only not printed part is the steerer. Now I'm using a Columbus steerer. The crown and the legs are 3D printed. Also the chainstays are entirely printed.
We have built the bicycle based on the Dachai steel tubes.
Mm-hmm.
They are from the category 0, so it's very light. In fact, when you look at the whole weight of the bicycle is 10.5 kilo, and there is no carbon in it. So all the components are pretty light. And we wanted it to be a little bit extreme in the sense that it's a gravel bike, but also could allow you to go into more, let's say, downhill or moments if needed. That's why we have a Fox fork with a 40 millimeters cap, and also in the seat post is a 50 millimeter cap, so you can also adapt it if necessary. The design paint, we wanted it to be very natural with rusty colors or more from the nature.
What was the paint process? Was this a dip, or like how did you get the transition?
It's actually a combination of techniques.
Okay.
So it's a dipping, it's brushing, it's airbrush also, and that is what makes it so so vibrant.
I did a pilgrimage, a Camino experience for some months, and I was very much enjoying that I had my tent and my sleeping bag and everything, like my apartment. And then I was like, it must be possible to translate this on top of a cargo bike.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the result,
Nice. Cool.
I've been realizing I've really created something that didn't exist before, because with the backpack it's amazing, but then you have all the weight, and when you are in a camper van, then sometimes you can't access the really nice places. So this is kind of a mixture between this aspect of, physical exhaustion and this kind of thing, and then at the same time a bit of luxury, in a sweet spot, as I.
Looks like you have cable steering. What else is there that's going on?
Well, cable steering, because I didn't think that I could take the other, but maybe I'm gonna experiment. But for now, and I have a belt drive, the magnetic system.
Oh, okay.
To in the daily life you do it when you are living the experience. You do it so often.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have it, in a nice way. Well, here we have the tent poles.
Okay.
Because it has a tent as well. It's really important. I can show it to you.
Yeah. What's this brass thing?
That's one of the most frequently used during the day, because you cook, you have your little plastic stuff, and then you don't know where to put it. And I have a little trash, and I made it in a magnetic way, so I can easily clean it, put it away. It's really one of my best inventions, I think.
Nice.
It's really quick, like within seconds I can create the situations wherever I am, in a nice nature spot or at the train station when it's not really, and then I can feel at home. It's really like I have my little office, I can do some reading, some cooking, have my tools. Yeah.
This definitely looks like the most luxurious bike touring setup I've ever seen.
I think it is. It really is on the luxury side of bike touring, but compared to the camping, it's really on the other side. So where is it really? It's I feel it's a new space that I've been entering.
But bike glamping. If you like this video, definitely check out our playlist of all our other videos here at Bespoked Dresden.